Hey guys, in this video I am speaking with Howard, who comes with 20 years of project management experience in the telecom and network implementation domain. He has recently got himself the PMP certification and he shares how he prepared for the exam in this video. So stay tuned. So here's the deal. How did you prepare for the PMP exam? I know it is a marathon, you have to study a lot, and you have been showing some of the books previously to me, and I think you've worked really hard. So, how did you
Yeah.
prepare, and how was your overall experience?
So, um, so yeah. First of all, it is a challenge. There's no doubt about that. So, I mean, I put in a lot of hours. I would love to know how many hours. I would probably estimate at least 200, probably between 200 and 300. So, towards the end, I was really waking up at 6 in the morning, and I was studying all day. I would have lunch, and I'd finish at like 10, 11. Towards the end, even 2 in the morning, and stuff like that. So, it's a lot of focus. I
Hmm.
was fortunate that I had my own consultancy business. I was able to sort of take time away from consultancy work, and I just wanted to focus on this. So,
Hmm.
but I started really in probably the middle of September, I would
Hmm.
think. And
Okay.
I just purchased, first thing I did, I purchased the PIN book, or the
Hmm.
PMBOK as you call it, and
Yeah.
I bought that and I started reading it really. So
Hmm.
actually, before that, I did the contact hours. So I did a course on
Hmm.
LinkedIn Learning, which I
Okay.
can't remember the lady's name now, but it was essentially like the introductory course to PMP,
Hmm.
right? So I went through all of that. It was about 6 to 7 hours. And
Hmm.
when I was reading that or listening to that and watching those videos, I was making notes in the PIN book as well. And in
Right.
addition to that, I read through the whole PIN book as well. So I went from first chapters to the end to the finish of stakeholder management. Read through it, put all the notes in. So I did that first of all. That is obviously not going to prepare you for the exam, but it gives you a good understanding at
Starting
least.
point. Yeah.
Starting point, yeah, good starting
Hmm.
point. So from there, I then bought Rita's book, which I showed you earlier, Rita's
Hmm.
preparation book. So I
Hmm.
went through all of that. You can probably see all my chapter headings here, and sort of I went through all my notes and put all of my under highlighted all the various things there. So I went through that. That was really useful. That
Can
took
you
me
show
about.
that? Can you? So sorry to interrupt. Can you show that? So anyone watching this video, that's the amount of commitment you need for PMP, right?
So you'll see all
Great.
my notes all the way
Superb.
through. So that was really useful. So it has a lot of what they call top tips in there. I think they call it top tips. So areas you need to focus on, and they have really good sort of exercises in there which you can do, and they give you the
Yeah.
answers. So it's a really good. But I didn't do all of the exercises, unfortunately, but
Mm,
I did most of them. And
mm,
so I went through a chapter at a time. So I think pretty much each chapter would take approximately 1 day to go through it
right.
and highlight it and make notes. But again, I think we'll talk about this later. But when you're highlighting things in a book,
Mm.
everyone will know this from when they study. It's not the same as typing it, writing it,
Yeah,
right?
right,
So,
right, right, right.
so I think when you do type things and you write it, I think it sticks in your brain more. You're just sort of
Mm,
highlighting it, really. So anyway,
right.
so I went through this for about 1 month. It would have
Mm,
been less, but I went on. I was getting. This was like in the middle of November. I was starting to get a little bit bored and tired of it, so I took a break.
okay.
And
Mm,
mentally, I needed a break. So actually, me and my partner, we went to New York. I spent a week there, and I came back, and I didn't do anything for like 1 or 2 weeks. I was just sick of it.
mhm,
So anyway, eventually I got back into it, and then I finished. I went through the book, finished that, and then I found your video. So, and
okay.
that was we talked about this earlier, but that was really great for me. So I went through your videos, and I went through each knowledge area. And what I did, I opened up a Word document for each
Okay.
knowledge area. I put the heading, whatever, scope management, and then I put the subheading of the various videos you showed. And then every time I'd listen to your video, I'd watch your videos, and I'd make notes. I'd stop the video, I'd make notes.
Oh, okay.
And also what I did, I hope you don't mind, I took screenshots as well. If you put like an
That's totally fine.
visual, I'd take a
Mm,
screenshot and I put it in there. So what I was doing, I was building a kind of a database of knowledge from the
wow.
videos,
Mm,
and then quite detailed knowledge, anything I thought was important. And also I found that when I was writing, it helped
mm.
me memorize it. It stuck
Yeah,
in
true.
my
Very true.
mind, right? And I've said this to you before, your videos are great, right? So they're really good for helping understand. You give a good broad overview, and it's much more accessible than just reading, Rita's book or the PIM book. So so I made those notes. I went through all of them, and at that point I started making a plan. I don't think I have it. So I wrote down, I had what I'm going to do on Monday, what I'm going to do on Tuesday, and then I finished, and I could see where I was going to be. So I could say, all right, next Friday I'll finish stakeholder management. I'll be finished then. And I remember sort of saying, right, I think I finished on a Wednesday. I said, right, Thursday and Friday I'm going to go through all the notes, because there's a lot of information, so you need to go back and then, remember it, right? So I did that. I had a plan. And then from then I also worked out this was just before Christmas, I think. So I had a plan, about 2 weeks before Christmas. So I knew that I could review my notes. I needed to have some time off for Christmas. My family were coming and all that sort of stuff. So I put that time away. And then at this point, I'd already booked the exam. So I booked the exam at the start of December. I had that plan, using your videos. I put Christmas into that plan. As soon as Christmas was finished, I knew I had 3 or 4 days before the exam. So I had it in my head. I knew what I was going to do. And I think you need that. If you don't have that plan, you'll probably just sort of jump around. You'll go from one chapter to another. You'll jump around. So you need to have quite a sequential order of study. And probably about 2 weeks before the exam, I was taking practice tests. I looked at Oliver Layman's tests. I looked at Dowd Nazir's book here, which was really good. And I found the questions were very difficult. And I'll talk about that in a bit more detail later. But the questions were much harder than I saw in the exam. I shouldn't say that, but. And so what I was doing them in batches of 50. So I do 100 to 150. I'd write the answer down. I'd check my answers. And I found I wasn't scoring very highly. I was quite disappointed. But then when I started to do them in batches of 10, I do 1 to 10, 10 to 20. I was scoring 85 or 90%. So I think that was a lesson I learned. I think you shouldn't do too many questions at once, because you get tired, and you rush them as well, because you're thinking, I want to do all these 50 questions. But if you just do 10, it takes 10 minutes, you stop, you check your answers, and then it's less tiring, right? And I was getting 90, 100% on everything, right? So I obviously had the knowledge there, right? So I did all the tests. I did that. There was another website I found, I think it was called PMP Prepcast, where strangely, I was doing the test, and I felt it went really badly. I was like, oh my God, it's a week before my test and I'm scoring really badly on this simulator. Then I did got the result, and it was like 75%. So I was like, oh wow, okay, I was quite surprised. So that was encouraging. So probably about a week before my exam, I just stopped doing questions. I knew all the information really. And I felt like I didn't know all the info. I felt like I was doing okay. And then from there, about 3 or 4 days, I just read all over my notes. I went through the PIM book. And the last tip I can give is the day before the exam, I just focused on monitoring and controlling and executing only those processes. I went through Rita's book, just got all of those processes. There's 22 processes, and they count for 56% of the exam. And they are generally quite easy processes. It's like monitoring, it's just controlling, right? So I thought, this is a good thing to do. I'm gonna at least I'll have 56%, right? Because I'll know all of these. Right? I made notes, and that was it really. So then I went to a party on the evening before the exam, and the next day I woke up early and I went in, and it was it was really good. Yeah, so I had my exam at 11:30. And I finished about half an hour before, and I just went through, reviewed all my answers, and that was it. Here I am.
Oh, great. So, I mean, I won't really promote the idea of partying right before the exam, but then it worked for you. But I think I noticed, go ahead.
So that's the advice that everyone gives. I mean, everyone says, like, your last night, don't study, you're just going to tire yourself, right? So just have an evening off. My attitude was, if I fail the exam tomorrow, I fail the exam, right? If I'd take it again, right? But I mean, I would be disappointed. But I mean, the last night, just rest yourself mentally, right? And then, I will say, right? I did study on the morning before, right? So I drove. The test center was about half an hour from where I live, so I drove there early. and I just found a place to have a coffee, and I just read through. I was looking through your notes, the notes I written on all your videos, and I just went through it. So I did a bit of preparation, but nothing too intense, you know.
Mm-hmm. Great. I think one thing that stood out when I was listening to how you were explaining your entire experience was that the way you planned your studies, you actually created a plan on how you're going to clear the PMP exam. That's how project managers clear PMP, right? Having a plan in place, treating
Exactly.
it as a project itself. Superb.
Exactly. Because I mean, as I said, right, you know where you're going to be, right? You know where you are, and you know where you're going to be, right? And you just follow it through. I mean, things can happen, which maybe you might be half a day behind. Your next day you're doing half the chapter from yesterday, but I mean, just keep to it, right? And it keeps you motivated as well. You know that at the end of this you should be in a good position, right? So, as I said earlier, if you don't have a plan, you'll be jumping around. Your head will be spinning. You'll be thinking, "Oh, I don't know scope management. Oh, I don't know cost. I'll look at this." Yeah. You need to be focused, really. I think.
That's true for almost everything in life if you don't have a plan, right?
I agree.
So, before I end this question, was PMP easy or difficult? What do you think? Somewhere in between?
In reference to the exam or the study?
The study, the run up to PMP.
No, it's not easy. Because there's lots of information. I think it depends, right? So if you've been working in an environment where your organization uses PMBOK and PMI, and you're comfortable with the terms, and you're surrounded by senior project managers who are referring to scope plans and control charts and all that. If you're familiar with the items, I think it will be easier. If you're completely new to it, you have to learn everything again, right? So, I found it. I found it difficult. I mean, I had to put a lot of effort in, right? I found particular areas difficult. I found quality difficult personally. What else did I find? I found the core knowledge areas are scope, schedule, and cost. I found those quite straightforward. I found risk quite straightforward personally, but I had trouble with quality. But it's a lot of information, and none of the processes or the knowledge areas work in isolation, right? So you when you start reading the PMBOK, it will be referring to procurement, and
true.
And you haven't got to procurement yet, so you're thinking, oh, okay, what is procurement, right? Or stakeholder this, or so that is difficult, right? It's challenging in that regard, right? So I think I said to you in email, right? So integration is confusing if you take it first, because integration integrates all the other knowledge areas. So if you look at integration at the start, you won't understand the context. So it's probably better to have a broad understanding. Don't study integration in detail. Look at that maybe at the end. That's what I did. I looked at it at the end, and it was clear to me when I looked at the end as well. So yes, it is difficult, right? The exam, I think, if you're prepared, the exam will be easy, right? If you're not prepared, the exam will be difficult, right? I found it easy. I shouldn't say that, but I was surprised. I can't talk too much about the exam because we promised PMI we don't talk about it.
Right.
But I was surprised. I was expecting it to be harder. I didn't see a lot of long questions or a lot of long answers. It was all very.
Oh, really?
And for me, I don't know if your experience was different. I found the right answer was very obvious to me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I think only on a few I was undecided. To me, it was like there was a spotlight on the right answer. But I mean, again, I'm not sure if that experience is common. I think if you're prepared, you will hopefully have that experience, right? I think if you prepared like I did, maybe it will be easy, right? But
yeah, I think so. I think so. Yeah.
But I wouldn't practice. I wouldn't like study for 2 weeks and then expect it to be easy. It won't be, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, I hope you got value out of this video and I would appreciate a thumbs up if you did. Do you have a question for Howard? Feel free to drop it in the comments and I will try to get him on board again. As always, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and check out pmclounge.com, your #1 free PMP resource. Thank you and have a nice day.